Welcome everyone to the last session of VARC ASO by Inside IIM. I'm your host for today. My name is Ishbani and I'm currently a second year student at FMS Delhi. Today I have with me Devesh, who is IIM Lucknow' alum, a pass out of 22 batch, and he is currently working at Deloitte as a consultant. So today we are going to present the final strategy of how to tackle VARC section for CAT 22. Over to you, Devesh.
Ishbani, thank you for the warm introduction. Obviously, CAT has been notoriously tough as far as the difficulty level across the section is concerned. And VARC is one particular section which obviously drives up the score if given due importance and proper strategies formulated for it. And that is why we are here in order to make sure that a foolproof strategy is in place for students so that they can go ahead and nail the exam and get into the college of their dreams.
Presenting the final strategy for verbal ability and reading comprehension section. So first of all, we are going to discuss the sources for RCs of past papers, which is CAT 2020 and CAT 2021. As already discussed in the previous videos of VARC ASER made by us, we have emphasized the importance of reading for cracking this section, and we'll again come up with the same point for you guys that reading is very important even in these last 2 months. We should be familiar with each and every kind of genre because we don't know what kind of passage would come up in exam. Hence, we have presented various sources for these RCs. Starting with slot 1 for CAT 2020, there were 4 RCs, and you can see that all the RCs were taken from variety of sources. The first RC was taken from a book, whereas the second RC, which was based on nature's theme, was taken from online website The Atlantic, and then the last two were taken from journal. And you can see that there was a mix, that the genres presented in this slot was a mixed bag. So something was on finance. If someone is a finance enthusiast, that RC would be easy for that person. Whereas if a person is not interested, it would be difficult. So to make oneself familiar with all kind of topics, I would re-emphasize that person should read a lot.
Yeah, if I were to speak about CAT 2020, I'll be just using the dash that it came out with two thirds and one bang. So the two thirds in terms of the surprise which was there with the format as far as the 2 hour paper was concerned. If you see, slot one was relatively tougher because the kind of dry topics were more.
Right.
Because of anarchism was something which made it really obstruse. Similarly, for cultural visualization, by the time the slot two started, obviously, Ishbani, you've taken the first slot, and by the time the slot two started, people got to know that there are 26 number of questions. So obviously, the mental
They must have
preparation
prepared
was
their
there
mind by then.
beforehand. Yeah. So if you see, as far as this particular slot two is concerned, again, a good mix of theses are obviously difficult to decipher, and that is why cultural visualization RC, if you go out and read, you kind of find it very dry. But then the whole point is that if the RC is difficult, the questions are relatively made easier. And if you get the gist of the RC, you can knock off all the 4 questions. Similarly, was true for this year cat also. Um, there is one another source of the spectator. The piracy RC was a breezy read. The RC on migration, though it came from Encyclopedia of Sociology, it was again not very difficult to tackle because the topics had been asked in the previous old CAT papers, and if you have gone through it, then obviously you'd be very much comfortable through this topic. Carbon technology is something which is as an emerging field, and obviously climate finance is something which people are looking through it. So if you see slot one and slot two, there was a kind of financial topic which came. China finance was not exactly a financial topic, but obviously it talked about the kind of coins and the trade system and which the
Right.
old Chinese empire used. And carbon technology was something which I really liked it as a type of topic. It was something really good taken from book again, but again the difficulty level was moderate. Overall, if you see the difficulty level, slot 2 was not that difficult as compared to slot 1. If you come to slot 3, obviously out of all these RCs, the toughest was modes of transportation because it was kind of very dry. Again, it was drawn from encyclopedia. Encyclopedia has this very nature that the kind of myriad set of conflicting ideas which is being presented in encyclopedia is something which can puzzle you, obviously, because you have a limited time in order to answer the questions, and then there's something difficult to make the neural connection out of it. Economic crisis, again, the topic being related to China finance, carbon technology, and economic crisis, again, the similar kind of topic was used, but and again, it was breezy read. Human contact was also very easy again, a New York Times article. The famous sources are there, New York Times, Guardian. So as far as the CAT 2020 is concerned, the source of RC was not very much different. And Ishbani, obviously, it hints something to people that what should they move forward in order to read. Just share your strategy, what you were
So
reading when
Devesh,
you were going through
after
these days,
going
especially
through, yeah.
The 2 months before CAT, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. So Devesh, after going through the RCs and the sources for CAT 2020, there are few things that we can decipher. First of all, the topics are mixed bag. Like they are covering all the genres. So person should be well familiar. If the person aims to attempt complete paper or most of the RCs, then the person should be familiar with all kind of topic. Secondly, one pattern that we can drive out from these sources is that reading is not enough for cracking this section, but quality reading is important. As we can see that all the sources that from which the RC has been taken up, they are world-class journals or world-class websites which are perfect in their respective fields. So going by those standards and the standards that CAT has always maintained, reading is not enough. Quality reading is what is needed. So these are some key takeaways from this slide.
What did you prefer to read during those 2 months before CAT? Like any particular sources you referred, or if you can share your insights?
Yeah. So my favorite source, like my go-to sources used to be Aeon because as you already mentioned, that topics were very dry for a few of the RCs. So, and I was not a avid reader and I was not good at reading or, deciphering dry RCs. So to tackle that problem, I used to read Aeon articles before going to sleep, and that really helped me a lot because they had genres, very versatile genres, very diversified genres. So that really helped me. And there has been a pattern that there are some scientific RCs coming up in CAT for our past few years. So to tackle with them, I used to read scientificamerican.com. And being a science student, I was not very familiar with economics and finance articles. So to be familiar with them, I used to read Economist. Though the name is Economist, but the magazine really covers everything in a very beautiful way. The genres varies from poetry, literature, and everything. So that used to be my go-to sources. And apart from that, I used to read newspaper editorials like from Hindu or Indian Express for that matter.
So for me, again, not very different from you. The only catch was that I was more into reading serious political books and tend to even read a lot now. Also, I'll be very much deep diving and reading those all everything from Greek mythology to the current Indian state and how the government is functioning. So my kind of inclinations obviously strive towards a particular set of topic, and that is why I find colonialism topic, as I can see on my screen, again it was present in slot 2. I find those topics very interesting, especially I think that's my favorite and the strong suit. And you rightly mentioned that Aeon is definitely something which one should
Look
definitely read,
forward.
even if they say you are too tired to write. Obviously, they have certain articles in which you can listen to podcasts. You can just put through your earphones and just have that screen right in front of you and just you'll be reading it for you and just you can go through the passage. What it does is that it inherently builds your ability to tackle the dry passage, because at the end of the day, you're getting just 40 minutes. In that 40 minutes, you have to comprehend, mark 24 question, and make sure that you have attempted a good number of questions with right number of accuracy. So that won't be possible until and unless you have a good command over the various genres, and that could be only possible if you have a good exposure and a good reading habits. And you can clearly again see the whether it be slot 1, slot 2, or slot 3. The sources has been books, Ion magazine, and Smithsonian Magazine because of cuttlefish. There was one RC in almost every slot which was based on science, like nano
Right.
machines for slot 3. Um, you can see through fish. Obviously, in this slot 2, I think it was something missing out. But then cuttlefish again from slot 1 was based on science. IIM Ahmedabad is obviously known for setting such kind of paper.
Yeah.
And the last that we did was 16 when you don't get the paper. In 15 when you don't get back the paper, so we don't know what was the quality. But then obviously if you go through these RCs, one thing good they had done was that they decreased the length of RC and they brought it down to 24 questions. That was obviously a breather. And I particularly felt that if you are well versed with the pattern and if you are well versed with the kind of reading which requires and you would have given ample number of mock cats, then I think it would have been a breezy read. And obviously, the high marks for 99 percentile also suggests that students are getting adapted as far as this particular exam is concerned.
Right.
Ishbani, especially this particular format is concerned. Yeah,
So
over
guys,
to you.
we have presented to you various sources, and I hope it will be helpful for you for your journey for last 2 months, and you will read and would look up to these sources. And now we'll come up to analyzing difficulty level of various coachings. So big names in CAT coaching are Time, IMS, and Career Launcher. So we'll just analyze them in brief. Like if you are scoring this much in their mocks, where do you stand and how many people are taking up and what is their closeness to the actual CAT paper?
Yeah, obviously, if, the idea was that we went across at least I also gave cat mocks and then you also gave certain mocks and we together decided I will be setting up and compiling this because this particular slide is something which is paramount importance because students start feeling that they're lagging after their one mock goes down that or if it goes down the water they have the doubt in their mind that whether their preparation is going in the right direction or not. And that is why what we decided was that we had given the variants of different mocks and then we came to conclusion that difficulty level of time as far as for their ACATs of this year is concerned, they're keeping it at a hard level. For IMS, it is between moderate to hard. Sometimes they juggle between moderate level, but mostly predominantly they are hard. Career launcher is obviously hard. Obviously, the mock cat, all India mock cat one of career launcher was horrendous, but mock cat two was more kind of standard paper. But then again, it required you to read it extensively. Now, number of people attempting is also very particularly important because on D day actually 1,90,000 to 2 lakh students will be appearing for that particular exam. So time 12,000 people give it, IMS 10,000, and Career Launcher it is relatively lower between 2,000 to 4,000. So Career Launcher folks, don't worry if you get a lower percentile. It is only because you are less number of people are competing with you, and obviously less people correspond to less percentile
So,
because at the
Devesh,
end of the day there will
I
be
would
a lot
like
more
to add
people.
something
Yeah,
here. You very rightly
yeah,
mentioned that we shouldn't be disheartened by going by a mock scores or percentile because the only parameter we see while analyzing a mock is where do we stand, what is the percentile we got, and we ignore
correct.
many facts like how many test takers are there, what is the difficulty level, and what is its closeness to the actual CAT paper. Sometimes to
Very
make
correct.
us, familiar with different kind of paper and experiment because we don't know how many questions would be there, what would be the examiner's mindset while setting the paper. So these coachings usually experiment with the paper and we get disheartened after seeing our mock scores. So it is of paramount importance that we see like what is the difficulty level of the paper, what is its closeness to CAT, and how many people are taking that exam. Because if we are scoring 98 percentile out of 2000 test takers, and if we are scoring the same out of 12,000 test takers, they are very different things. So we should keep these
Correct.
factors in mind before getting disheartening. And guys, fluctuating mock scores is very common. While I was an aspirant, my mock score used to fluctuate a lot in initial stages. But as CAT was approaching, it started fluctuating, but in permissible limits, like 5 up and down. So it stabilizes by the time CAT exam comes up. And even if it doesn't stabilizes, it's not a matter of worry. We should
So,
be,
Ishbani, I have, if you allow me, I have a different funda altogether. Like, don't look at a percentile
yeah,
altogether.
no worries.
Chase a particular score. If you
Yeah.
are able to get 50% mark in a particular section, for that matter, for verbal ability, 72 marks is your actual paper, 36 mark, 50% in mocks. is a very good score, because anyway on 41 marks in CAT, you are getting a 99 percentile, +1, +2 here and there. But ballpark 50% mark will definitely fetch you 99 percentile. It has been a traditionally in CAT that a tough paper fetches you this mark, especially in the verbal ability section.
Devesh, I would
Yeah.
like to add something. I am very much satisfied with the strategy that you shared. That instead of chasing a percentile, we should chase a score. But we should again keep one thing in mind, that we can't keep a fixed number in mind, because that again depends upon the difficulty level of paper. Scoring a 40 in a difficult paper and scoring a 40 in an easy paper are altogether very different things. A 40 in difficult paper can fetch you 99 percentile, whereas in an easy paper it would hardly fetch you 95 percentile. So first of all, we should go through the paper and should be able to gauge the difficulty level of it, and then we should come up with a score in our mind that okay, this could be the rough score that we could aim for in this kind of a paper.
Ishbani and I wrote a lot of ample number of mocks to gauge what could be the difficulty level, and if we extrapolate those scores to D-Day CAT exam, and considering the difficulty level which CAT poses, what we see for time, it is around 35 plus, Ishbani, if I'm not mistaken. No, 35 plus,
Yeah,
right?
right.
For IMS, it was between 38 to 40 and 34 to 37 for career launcher. Again, because um, their options were also kind of very obstruse, and their topic was also dry. And time was again, though the options were easy, but then the passage itself was lengthy and then complex. IMS had beautiful passages. If you want to fall in love with passages, read IMS passages. Those were beautiful passages, but then sometimes the option didn't make sense. That is why 3 marks more for IMS. Altogether, all three are good. If you're scoring somewhere between 36 to 40, you should be happy. Yeah.
Also, guys, I would like to add to it that you should not strictly adhere to these numbers, because they're just a guesstimate done by us by solving various papers. So the actual marks may vary. So please don't stick to these numbers. They are just an estimate. So let's move forward. So what is to-do list for the last 2 months? So first of all, we should attempt maximum number of mocks that we can. At this point of time, all we can do is solve mocks. We cannot revise basics or anything like that, and we can do the revision only from the purpose of mocks. So ideally at this point of time, you should start giving at least 2 mocks per week, or at least one seriously. So the point we are currently here is that we can't only focus on just giving mocks, but analyzing a mistake, which is more important than giving mocks. So analyzing mistakes is very important. So what should be the strategy while giving mocks is, give a mock, give 1 day to just analyze it, where the strategy went wrong, where could extra marks could be fetched from, which question was doable and was not being done in that paper, which could have been correct and which was wrong. So just try to figure out from where could you fetch more marks. For example, one silly mistake could make a difference of 4 marks. A +3 and -1 is just one silly mistake away, and 4 marks, and it can be an icebreaker. It can make or break your score. So just be
Especially
careful of,
in especially in para summary, Ishbani, if
yeah.
you just go off script,
Right.
then
Even
obviously you
in,
could be
you see
getting a lot.
para jumbles, Devesh, one sequence wrong, you can just figure out what could be the starting sentence, what could be the ending sentence, but one
Yeah,
wrong position can make you lose 3 precious marks. So we
three
should be
precious
very
marks.
careful of these silly mistakes, and we should be able to learn from them. Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What kind of topics you should read more? What kind of RCs you should practice more? So analyzing marks is very important according to me. Then, as we have already mentioned, being familiar with various genres, we have already provided you to read from various sources. So I would suggest that reading at least 1 hour day is important at this point of time, because reading also works as an healer for you while you are done with doing regressive practicing quants questions or DILR questions. So reading in between them can work as an healer, as some relaxation, and can also boost your VARC score. So reading is very important. And as already mentioned, fix a target in your mind. And we cannot predict like what is the exact difficulty level of paper. Scoring 40 or 45 marks would fetch you what percentile. So try to maximize your score. Be you You should not be considering what other people would be scoring, but think about yourself. What you can score best out of this paper is very important. We cannot predict like where 2 lakhs people stand, or what kind of thinking they have right now, what questions they are going to solve, or how many questions they are going to attempt. But by going through the paper, just spend first 5 minutes of the paper analyzing it. What are the easy topics, what is something you are familiar with, what is the difficulty level, and try to maximize your score in those boundaries. Try to think like, okay, 40 45 at least I should score, and then prepare the best and worst case scenarios according to that. So that will be my to-do list for last 2 months. So now finally we have strategy to attempt the question paper, and Devesh, I would like you to go forward with it.
Yeah, so for me, as soon as I enter the first session, I feel that the first 30 minutes timer is very daunting.
Yeah,
Sit there and stare at the screen for 30 minutes, waiting the exam to start is very daunting. And obviously, it can be a tireless sleep for people, and your anxiety can be at the top. So, what you do is that don't straight away go and jump into the question. Take a minute, take 1.5 minutes, go through passages, the 4 passages, the para summary, the para jumble, the odd sentences. Is that the format which has already come up in CAT, or they have introduced something new? If you are in first slot, especially second slot and third slot, obviously the news flows, so they are at advantage in that regard. But for the first slot, especially, it is very important. Then what you tend to do in those 2 minutes is that read 1 or 2 lines from each passage.
right,
What it does is that it gives you the idea of the kind of topic that is being asked. Select the passage which you think you'll be most comfortable with. Suppose the starting 2 lines is of cricket, or let's say Russian and the Ukraine are fighting for a long period of time, and it happens that the RC comes from Soviet Union and Russian communism. So obviously, what you need to do is that if you're comfortable with those topics, go ahead, attempt it first. It will solve two purposes. Number one, it will save your time. Secondly, you'll gain confidence, and obviously, it will make you feel good, because the better are your chances to knock it off. Consider it like a cricket match where you will be dispatching full tosses and dugging off the bouncers. Gauge the difficulty level of the paper, and you have seen two slots of 17, two slots of 18, two slots of 19. That means 6 papers from 17 to 19, and three of both 20 and 21. So altogether, you have 12 question papers. So easily you can bridge a gap that where does this paper stand? Was it a 2017 level, 2018 level, 2019 level, 2020 level, and 2021 level? Two things that can make an RC difficult is it is really difficult to read, and secondly, it is really difficult to eliminate the options. I find the latter one is great. It's trickier than the former one, because in the former one you get to know what is going on, what are the problems, and definitely you can skip it altogether if you feel that something like CAT 2019 slot 2 British colonialism comes. But in the second one, you won't even know that you have made a mistake. You'll be falling for traps. You'll be marking that particular option and be comfortable saying, I've got it correct. But you could have been gotten a -1. So it is very difficult to gauge where is the difficulty level of the paper. Again, the finding the comfortable RCs to knock off. Obviously, try for the low hanging fruits first of all, guys. Clear the sectional cutoffs and then score. Score as much as you can in your the best section, whichever is your forte, because for different person, different section will be their forte. But obviously, grab the low hanging fruit first. Strategy for the VA part, for me personally, I feel Ishbani may differ from that, because obviously she taught VA all these days, and will be more energetic to defend it. For me, I find 16 question of RC and 3 questions of para summary make or break, because altogether I consider them as a part of RC only. Then those are 19 question altogether. 19 into 3, 57 marks. if you're getting somewhere around 75 to 80% of the accuracy in that particular 19 section, 90% of your job is done. You have to just knock off one or two odd sentences and then you can go away with it. But that is my approach altogether.
Yeah, and
So
I
if
beg
my
to differ
particular
at this
order is
point,
considered,
as you
yeah,
clearly
uh,
mentioned that before. I believe that odd one out and para jumbles are something you should always strive for, because you don't have anything at stake as far as these questions are concerned.
correct. That is what I was coming to. That for me, if I had to attempt the paper, anyways, I'll be attending 24 questions. It's a crime not to attempt 24 question in verbal ability unless and until you feel the two options are very difficult to be eliminated.
Only if you are not running
Uh,
against time, like you're
yeah,
not
obviously, if
sure.
you're not
Yeah,
running against time. So, 24 question, what I mean is that 24 questions, if you are comfortable to attempt 24 questions. And for my personal sequences, I go off and start with the easiest RC, then go on with the more progressively difficult level. In this way I complete all RC in one go. Then I'll go to para summary, knock it off. Then I'll go to odd sentences, knock that off, and finally I'll come to para jumble. Sometimes I do in odd sentences and para jumble is that sometimes the para jumble is very small and very easy. So
yeah,
if you read it in the first go, you can knock it off. And at least of the three questions which I have seen, at least one para jumble is very easy and one odd sentence is very easy. And
yeah,
two summaries are very easy. So altogether, if a normal average student is also concerned, he can definitely bag 12 marks with decent amount of practice from at least the VA part. Out of the 24 marks of VA, he can definitely bag 12 marks. Second round, if time permits, why did I write this? Because most of the time you won't find that 40 minutes is ample enough to come for a second round. But if at all it does happen and there are certain questions you have kept mark for review, and do visit them. That is my way how I go and attempt the paper. Obviously, we have covered it in great detail in our videos lecture
so
earlier. Ishbani, you would like to add
yeah.
anything?
So one important point I would like to raise here is, like, all of us have some kind of, difficult points. For example, I am not very comfortable with para jumbles, or for that matter, I'm not comfortable with any other kind of question. So I would go with a frightened mind that, okay, this questions I wouldn't attempt in the paper, or I would attempt at the end. But sometimes we miss the low hanging fruit, as already mentioned by you, because that could be a case that easy questions come up from those topics, whereas the topics we are comfortable with throws some very difficult questions. So at the end, when we reach to
Make me
these,
remind of CAT 2018 con,
so when
especially with arithmetic
yeah,
section.
so when we reach to those easy questions, we are running against time, and then we are only left with regret. Okay, we should have done these questions before, because we could have scored more marks. So then this also emphasizes the importance of going through the complete paper, and doesn't come up with a preoccupied mind or preconceived notions that these could be difficult kind of questions, or I wouldn't be solving it. So I would like to emphasize a very important point, that there is not one fit all strategy. And also, as far as one person is concerned, you can't carry forward same strategy in all papers. So strategy is something that is a rough framework, and you can experiment with it, and you should experiment with it on D-Day also. You can't go and say, okay, I'll do RC first, then I'll do verbal ability, and these are the questions I'm not comfortable with, I'll do at the end. It doesn't work that way. It always depend upon the paper. It is very subjective thing. It varies from paper to paper, and that's what we should keep in mind while attempting any mock, or for that matter, the actual paper. So
That
this,
was all from our side, guys. Best wishes for CAT 2022. Hope all of you come out with a flying color and our sessions would have been a great help. So that's what that we guys think. Obviously, a lot of effort have been put as by ourselves and the
team
team inside
inside
I am
IIM,
also
of
for giving
course.
us this opportunity, obviously, and the way they have made sure that students get these materials, something that is really commendable, and especially the way we all together came and wrote the mocks and reminded us of our days when we used to prepare. Obviously, it was good to come back and feel the nostalgia, but I hope everything goes well for the students and they are able to come out with a flying colors.
So guys, all the best
What
for
is
your CAT
you
2022. And in case of any queries, feel free to reach out to either of us or team inside IIM. Wish you all the very best.